Politics is tough, and it's many cases not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate very much a transition that's so smooth. It'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
Well, Mr. President-elect and former President and Donald, congratulations. And looking forward to having like we said, a smooth transition.
A smooth transition, the promise from Joe Biden to Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Despite that conversation being 2 weeks ago, Trump's transition team has only just signed the paperwork with the White House, allowing for Trump team members to get access to certain information ahead of Inauguration Day. Transition cooperation from the sitting president was something that Joe Biden famously did not receive from the man who is now returning to the White House when he was leaving back in 2020. In fact, on this day 4 years ago, Trump was furiously tweeting and retweeting 34 times to be exact, things like how machines, quote, gave Biden thousands of votes, or how, quote, the 2020 election was a total scam with, quote, massive voter fraud. And it was this week, 4 years ago, when Donald Trump spoke with reporters publicly for the first time since his election defeat, which led to a heated 25-minute exchange filled with falsehoods and anger at the media.
There's tremendous fraud here. It was a rigged election. We caught them cheating. We caught them stealing. We caught a fraudulent effort to get votes. At the highest level, it was a rigged election. I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way.
All right, joining us now to talk about the state of Trump world on this Thanksgiving week, Maggie Haberman, senior political correspondent for the New York Times and a CNN political analyst. Maggie, I'm thrilled to have you. There's no one I'd rather talk to. Can you just take us inside the state of the Trump transition right now? Including, I mean, are they happy with how the White House has been handling this? And, you know, we've been talking this morning a lot about this ceasefire deal between Hezbollah and Israel. And of course, the Trump team has been briefed on that. I'm curious if you know anything about how, if they were involved with it, et cetera.
I have no information, Casey, as to whether they're involved with that particular ceasefire deal. Certainly, what you have not seen is Donald Trump, posting on social media or objecting to it or saying something that would have scuttled it. And so I do think there is a mindfulness on the Trump team about what's happening on the world stage, not exacerbating certain problems. You know, when Trump wants to object to something that the current White House is doing, he makes it pretty clear. This is also not, the more elaborate ceasefire deal with Gaza that the current White House would like to see. And so this is of slightly lesser concern.
Yeah. So, Maggie, we obviously are preparing for Trump to move back to town here in Washington. And there are all these questions about how access to him is going to be managed and what that means for governance. And you and your colleague, Jonathan Swan, had this fascinating story about this one particular aide whose name is Natalie Harp. I remember her coming up when Donald Trump was on trial in New York, and she was described as a human printer who walks around with a printer, prints out, articles for him to see, is really somebody who is bringing information to him on a regular basis. And you had these fascinating letters that she had written to Donald Trump. She had said, quote, "You are all that matters to me." She had said, "I don't want to ever let you down. I want to bring you joy, to feel like we can get through a day without ever having to talk work." And she called Mr. Trump her guardian and protector in this life. Who is this person? What implications does her closeness with Donald Trump have for the American people?
Well, I think the closeness is significant because, number one, she is now going into the White House. She's been written about before, Casey, and in a normal circumstance, a more junior aide would not be a subject of interest. But she is going into the White House, expected to sit likely in the outer oval, which is right outside the Oval Office. But she's significant because she supplies him with what has generally been this sort of unfettered stream of unvetted information. And at times, many times, that has led to social media posts that other people in Trump's orbit have been alarmed by or would have rather not had get out, such as the 40 some odd posts that he did on the eve of his second trial involving E. Jean Carroll, who had accused him of a rape decades earlier, a civil trial that was held in New York. That's just one example. There are many. She is said to have been working more within a chain of command within the last couple of weeks of the campaign. but the new White House is different, and so that's why it's significant. As we know, Trump often would get information that was not vetted from, questionable sources while he was president and in the interregnum between these two presidencies. And so what he does with that information, who he's listening to, is always of importance.
For real. Maggie, before I let you go, I want to ask you about one other figure who you had covered, I think, well before, I would imagine, Donald Trump actually was, in the Oval Office, but obviously who was a figure during the first Trump administration, and that is, of course, Rudy Giuliani. I want to show you what he had to say after court this week. Let's watch.
The reality is, I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account. I have no place I can go take cash out except a little bit that I saved, and it's getting down to almost nothing.
This is the man who was the mayor of New York City in the wake of September 11th, and now there were reports his refrigerator in his Miami condo was repossessed in this court case that he's dealing with, and it's all because of his association with Donald Trump.
Well, to a point, Casey. I mean, I covered Rudy Giuliani in his second term. I covered most of that term when I was working for the New York Post. And he was at City Hall. And he was, a very different, in some ways very different than what you're seeing here. In some ways not. There are aspects of this version of Rudy Giuliani that have always existed. He did what was a widely praised job leading the city right after the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks, which was a terrifying time in this city. He has always been conspiracy-minded. He has always had an openness to power and to access to power. So yes, on the one hand, it's Donald Trump. On the other hand, I don't know that anybody forced Rudy Giuliani to go do the things for which he was found to have defamed two women who no one had ever heard of before until he started throwing their names around. And so, yes, there are a lot of people who like Rudy Giuliani who hear him say things like that and they feel very bad. What's always missing, and it's understandable, he's an almost 80-year-old man or however old he is now, but it's also, there's never any sense of, how he got into this position, which are actions he took himself. And so, yes, it was in the service of Donald Trump, but he had agency here, and he is a grown man.
He is a grown man. I very much appreciate that assessment. Maggie Haberman, very grateful to have you. Thank you very much.